Welcome to The Shoreline, brought to you by Shores and Islands, Ohio, where finding your Lake Erie love is a sure thing. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Jill Bauer, PR Manager for Shores and Islands, Ohio. We bring you The Shoreline every week to give you the inside scoop on what's happening here in our island and coastal communities. July episodes of The Shoreline are brought to you by The Emporium at Market Street, a low-cost, inclusive marketplace designed to uplift local entrepreneurs, farmers, and artists by providing an accessible platform to showcase and sell their work. The Emporium offers a welcoming environment, fostering neighborhood pride in the heart of downtown Sandusky, and it's opening July 20th. You can find them at emporiumwestmarket.com. Continuing through the month of July, we are fully into our summer island season, a great time to visit our beautiful Lake Erie Islands. Last week, we chatted all things Kelly's Island. This week, we're going to shift our focus slightly west to the beautiful South Bass Island, home of the village of Put-in-Bay, and Middle Bass Island. But real quick, before we get to our special island guest today, I'm going to highlight some events that are coming up in the next month or so, things that you might want to plan an island visit around. South Bass Island Lighthouse Tours combined with Science Days with Stone Lab. They will continue on Friday, July 25th. Gibraltar Island, which is accessible from Put-in-Bay. Those tours will continue every Thursday through August 14th. Island Green Week. It's a celebration of all things nature that will be celebrated this year from August 2nd through 9th. And that actually takes place on Kelly's, Put-in-Bay, and Middle Bass Island, so there's events going on all week long. You might want to head over to Middle Bass Island on August 2nd to catch the ABBA tribute band Super Troopers. They're going to be playing at George's Waterfront Bar at the former Lon's Winery property. And speaking of concerts, arguably the biggest one of the year for the region takes place at the Put-in-Bay Airport, the annual Bash on the Bay Music Festival. This year, featuring country headliners Luke Bryan and Sam Hunt, along with some amazing supporting acts. You can get more details and tickets for that show at bashonthebay.com. And two more Put-in-Bay events that are not to be missed are the annual Historic Weekend, which is September 5 through 7, and the second annual Monarch Fest, which is taking place on September 13th. So lots of reasons to visit, and you may be wondering, how do I get there? Well, founded in 1905 as a fishing and water taxi company in the summer and an ice harvesting business in the winter, Miller Ferry has grown to be the biggest ferry service on Lake Erie. This family-owned business, celebrating 120 years this year, runs ferries to Put-in-Bay and Middle Bass Island in the spring, summer, and fall. Today's guest is Billy Market. Billy Market is the president and general manager of Miller Boat Line, where he proudly refers to himself as the highest paid dock boy. With 53 seasons under his belt, Billy's lifelong dedication to the company is matched only by his deep roots on South Bass Island. Born and raised in Put-in-Bay, he graduated from Port Clinton High School and went on to earn a degree from The Ohio State University with a special major in ferry boat management. Can't wait to hear about that. Billy is a devoted family man, married to his wife Allison and father to 3 children, Caitlin, Leah, and William, who also goes by Liam. When he's not managing ferry operations or playing softball, you'll likely find him poolside in Mexico, enjoying a well-earned margarita. Welcome to The Shoreline, Billy.
Why, good morning. Thank you so much for that great introduction, and thank you for having me on board.
I love that. I imagine that you enjoy being poolside in Mexico. I'm going to imagine that's probably in January or February.
That's exactly right. Yes. That's what we have a little downtime at that time, and we all try to recharge our batteries. And between a couple of weeks or so in Mexico and a little bit of ice fishing out by Rattlesnake, when we get a good winter, that's how we recharge our batteries.
Oh, I love it. Well, let's start with some history on Miller Ferry. How and when was Miller Ferries first founded?
Bill Miller, who also went by Pop Miller, in 1905. He started with an ice harvesting and actually storing the ice in the ice house, blocks of ice, and then delivering that ice to the boaters, the yachters that were anchored in the bay. It was along that same time where he also started sort of a water taxi business, similar to what the Boardwalk Water Taxi is now, where generally now you jump on a radio and you'll call the Boardwalk Water Taxi, tell them what mooring ball you might be on. Well, back then, when Pop Miller started this, you would actually yell out over the water, Miller's, Miller's. And then he would come out in a water taxi and then take you in and out of the harbor, as well as delivering ice to those boaters. And it wasn't too long after that where he started sort of a water transportation company, delivering people, taking people to different islands. And it was sort of his motto was anywhere, anytime. So he would deliver people to whether it be Ballast Island, Rattlesnake, Middle Bass, the Sugar Island, Old Hen Island, where they had a big bass fishing club up there at the time. And then it was also shortly after that he started the charter fishing business. Of course, we're called the Bass Islands for a reason. We were world renowned, known for our bass fishing. And so he specialized in bass fishing charters and started out with a single vessel and worked his way up to 3 or 4 vessels after that.
So, when did your family become involved in running the ferry part of the Miller Ferry business?
Well, my dad started working as a deckhand in 1948.
Okay.
He deckhanded for several seasons. He was working with Bill Miller Jr. on the boat at the time. And so he deckhanded for them. And then about 1959, my dad became a captain and then captained the vessel William M. Miller up until about 1970. At that time, Lee Miller was turning over the reins to my dad to be the general manager. And so my dad became the general manager around 1971. And it was shortly after that where Lee Miller had passed away. Mrs. Miller, being the only survivor of the Miller family, sold the boat line to my parents in about 1977, 78.
And your family, your parents were originally from the island itself?
Yeah. So as you know, my dad was born and raised on Put-in-Bay here. And then my mom was actually born and raised on North Bass Island. Her parents were heavily involved in the grape harvesting and growing industry up there, which was huge up there at that time. And then, as she liked to call it, she moved to the big island of Put-in-Bay when she was about 7 or 8 years old.
The big island now in size?
The big island as far as maybe population.
That's what I was thinking, because isn't it North Bass actually a little bit larger in area?
North Bass is a little bit smaller than Put-in-Bay. Put-in-Bay is not the largest. Of course, Pelee and Kelly's are both larger islands.
Yeah.
But when I say the big island, I meant
the big city.
Yes, like a year-round grocery store. Whenever we did get up to North Bass in later years, and as we were kids, and especially with my kids and grandkids, she would point out the house she was born and raised in to us, and then she would specifically point out the outhouse they had on the island up until that time before she moved to the big island of Put-in-Bay, as we call it.
Did she graduate from Put-in-Bay?
She did. She also graduated from Put-in-Bay, correct.
So your family's been involved since the 70s, over the past 120 years of Miller Ferry. How has Miller changed or adapted with the times?
Well, as we've seen over here on the island, especially over the past 50 years, the island has grown in popularity. There are more establishments, businesses, overnight accommodations. During the 70s, the Lake Erie had a bad misnomer back then as far as being a dirty lake. Well, the lake really has really significantly cleaned up since then. The recreational boating, we have one of the largest concentrations of recreational boating in the world between Detroit, Cleveland, Toledo, Sandusky, of course, Catawba, Port Clinton, and the many marinas. During the 70s, the islands really started to grow in popularity and taking off. People were investing money into the downtown establishments and redoing older buildings and turning them into whether it be a bed and breakfast or a new bar or an establishment. So the islands started becoming very popular back through the late 70s and especially growing through the 80s and 90s.
And so you have really adapted with that as far as your fleet has grown and your services have grown.
Significantly. We have always prided ourselves as calling ourselves the lifeline of the island. Anything that's used or consumed on the island, whether it be the bed you sleep on or the ice cream cone you might eat or the lumber to build a house, we transport it to the island. So the island is very dependent upon our services as well as we're dependent on the people on the island. We have grown significantly over the past 40 years, especially over the past 25 years. We have built several new vessels, including the newest one, the Mary Ann Market, which we've had since 2021 now.
Let's talk about Marianne Market a little bit. So first of all, it's named after your mom, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And that is the largest vessel probably that you've ever had in your fleet. How many do you currently have in your fleet?
We have 5 vessels in our fleet. There was actually 3 phases of the boat line history. Like I said,
Okay.
Pop Miller with the ice industry and the water taxi and the bass fishing. Lee Miller, Bill's son, in 1945 actually started what I call our second phase, what we know now as the Miller Ferry System, with the first all-steel auto passenger ferry. It was called the Motor Vessel South Shore, built in 1945. That's what I call sort of our modern part of our history now, but that's 80 years ago already, so it's not that modern.
But it was modern to be able to take a vehicle onto a boat and transport it from the mainland to the island.
I mean, there were several other ways to get vehicles to the island before that, but this was one of the first, as far as the Miller fleet is concerned, our first auto passenger ferry.
Mm-hmm. And then today, so talk a bit about what you are able to transport today.
Okay, well, like I said, the businesses on the island have grown significantly, and of course, the number of people over here have grown significantly. Of course, the services required, whether it be the service trucks, the purveyors, the delivery trucks, the pop, the milk, the bread, produce, whatever it's taken to support possibly 15 to 18,000 people over here on a given weekend, has grown significantly. In 1983, we built what we consider our first boat in our modern fleet. It was the Motor Vessel Islander, where you were actually able to drive on, drive off yourselves. Mm-hmm. Previous to that, the vessels we had, the old side loading vessels, the deckhands, the dock crew would drive those on and off themselves. So you had to get out of your car, we'd jump in, park your car on the boat the way that we required it, and then drove them on, backed them off. So in 1983 was sort of our first, what we call the modern system that we have now. And that's, my gosh, that's 42 years ago now already. And so we built the Motor Vessel Islander in 83. We built the Motor Vessel South Bass in 1989. We built the Motor Vessel, the Put-in-Bay in 1993 and the William Market in 1997. So at that time, we had 4 vessels. We had sold off some of our older vessels, the side-loading vessels by that time. In 2010, we took the Motor Vessel Put-in-Bay, which was 96 feet long. We took it to Cleveland. The shipyard cut it in half and added a 40-foot midsection to it. So we lengthened it to 136 feet at that time. So we went from carrying 17, 18 cars on that vessel to 24, 25. Now, that might not sound that significant, but that extra 8 cars an hour over the course of 10, 12 hours, it was an additional 100 to 110 cars we were able to carry in the day. And then, of course, in 2021, we had the newest vessel, which is 140 feet long, the Motor Vessel Marianne Market.
Now, how many cars can that one transport?
We call a normal load right around 24 to 26 cars, depending on their size. You can carry up to 4 semis at one time. And of course, like I said, there's, whether it be lumber trucks, the purveyor trucks, the semis for road repairs or carrying heavy equipment. So it's a mix and match load. Every load, it seems, is sort of a jigsaw puzzle. And the crews and captains we have are phenomenal at maximizing the space and heavier things, heavier trucks down the middle of the boat and then smaller ones here. So it's sort of like every trip is a jigsaw puzzle.
It's so amazing to watch the boats be loaded and to watch the crew just know exactly, in what order they need to go in and where they need to park and how close together they can. I mean, they park us in there so close together because you know exactly how many will fit.
Yeah, well, we have a very great staff and crew that does a phenomenal job for us. They're the people that row the boat, so to speak. I sort of sit in the stern of the boat and steer it with the rudder occasionally, but we have a dedicated, hardworking crew that really, really does a great job.
So you've been working on the docks for a long time. I assume you probably started when you were really young. Talk about, kind of what you did, where you started out, and how that grew into where you are today.
Well, I started out when I was several years ago when I was about 11 years old, painting fences, emptying trash cans, mowing some grass.
There's always ways to get the whole family involved.
Yes, well, Dad had a phenomenal work ethic, and I think he wanted to pass that along to us. Then I transferred to the ticket booth actually for a couple of seasons when I was like 14, 15, maybe 16, and then I started deckhanding on the vessels right after I turned 16. So I had some great people that taught me, that showed me the ropes, so to speak, and passed along their expertise. I got my captain's license when I was 19, and I was sort of like the fill-in captain at that time, where if we needed an extra trip, or if somebody called in sick, or somebody took a day off, so I was able to fill in at that time. And I deckhanded for several years after that while I was still learning the ropes on the pilot house side. But I had a lot of phenomenal, great experienced captains show me the ropes, and that's, you try to just, as I tell people, if you keep your eyes open, your ears open, and your mouth closed, you can learn a lot that way.
Well, speaking of learning, you even went to the Ohio State University and somehow got a degree in ferry management. How did that work? And how did the Ohio State do that for you? And what did it all entail?
So I decided I wanted to be a Buckeye, and of course I moved off the island for my last couple of years of high school. Graduated from Port Clinton. That was I had some of my best friends in my entire life that I met over there, as well as I would participate in sports over there, which we were slightly short on the number of bodies needed for a sports program here on the island.
Right, right. Not a lot of room for athletic, competition in a really small school. So for those opportunities, you went to the mainland to go to a bigger school.
So I went to Port Clinton, of course, participated in sports, and then I wanted to be a Buckeye, of course. And so I went to Ohio State University. My first 2 years, I just was in general business, a little bit of, all the core subjects. And then after my sophomore year, I had to sit with my counselor. And he goes, well, Billy, what would you like to do the rest of your life? Well, at that time, my baseball career had reached its peak or was ended by that time. So, and I described the family business to him, and he goes, oh, my gosh, Billy, that is phenomenal. He goes, I was just on one of your vessels and rode to Put-in-Bay with you guys several months ago. And he goes, what a great opportunity you have. And I definitely agreed with him on that. And he goes, what's your grade point? He asked me. And I said, well, I got a 3.1. And don't ask me how I maintained a 3.1, which is decent, not great, but a nice little 3.1 average. And he goes, this is phenomenal. We had just started this new program at Ohio State called a well-defined career interest. And there was approximately about 25 of us in this program, and with different specific businesses or approaches we wanted to take or career opportunities that we had. And, of course, mine being the boat line. And so I ended up over the next couple of years taking everything from personal management to human resources to finance to accounting to personal management. But I also added in transportation logistics. I had some maritime law. So I was a general degree catered to an individual program, ferry boat management. So I was very fortunate that Ohio State was able to cater to an individual's needs. And there was about 20 to 25 of us in this program, like I said, in different specific areas. Mine was catered to a general business degree centered around ferry boats. Now, that sounds a little specific. It is. And I think the only reason they were able to call it ferry boat management is I took some transportation logistics, maritime law, as well as just a general business degree that had all aspects of it covered.
That is phenomenal. That's amazing that they were able to specialize so much for you and, into your unique niche of a business. Do you know, has anybody since you ever done a similar degree?
I don't think we've had anybody else graduate in that specific degree, but I do believe they continued that program for a long time, and they might still be today. One of my good friends down there, her father was a dairy farmer, so she took like an agricultural business combination that was catered to dairy farming. And so, but I don't believe anybody's followed up with a ferry boat management degree.
Well, you're a unique one then. You can that can be one of your claim to fames, one of your many, I'm sure.
If you ask most people, they would definitely call me unique.
So Miller Ferry is still very much a family-run operation. How does it feel to be part of the third generation that's now continuing your legacy?
We are very blessed, not just with what my parents were able to accomplish and do. They gave my sister Jolene, my brother Scott, and I the opportunity to see what we could do with it. And of course, they spoon fed us, they mentored us, they nurtured us, and all three of us were heavily involved from the boat line from the very beginning. And we sort of took the reins and ran with it. And of course, they kept us on their short leash a little bit, but they kept giving us more leash as time went on. We got more experience. And we are very blessed now to have another generation where my brother Scott's Jake is heavily involved, as well as Jordan, as well as Gwenna. And then, of course, my daughter Caitlin. My daughter Leah lives in Cleveland and works for the Bill and Linda Gates Foundation, which is very fortunate for her. But we're very fortunate to have another generation behind us be involved and interested and taking the sort of the weight off of our shoulders now, like we did with my parents 30 years ago.
That's wonderful. Now, we talked a little bit already about the different kinds of things that your ferry vessels can take besides passengers and vehicles. But I want to ask, what are maybe some of the more unique things that people wouldn't have expected that you would have transported on the ferry?
Well, there's everything from, like I said, all the consumables and construction materials, of course. We do haul half of, modular homes over here. We just hauled one here last week where somebody brings over three pieces of a 62-foot long, 16-foot wide, 14-foot high box house. They slap them together, and the prefab modular homes. My most memorable trips, of course, is hauling the Ohio State University Band, which we have done. IO, which we have done twice now over the past 10 years. And that's still one of my most memorable trips. We've hauled the Budweiser Clydesdale horses over. Those are some of my favorite memorable trips, but broken, let's say an airplane collapsed their wheel landing. So we've hauled airplanes off of the island after they possibly collapsed a wheel landing gear or something. And so there's some pretty unique things that you see go back and forth, of course.
That's phenomenal. And I mentioned before we started chatting about some of the events, and one of the big ones that's coming up is the Bash on the Bay. I think this is year 8 maybe for that music festival, and that's all because of you guys as well. Talk about all of the things that are transported over for that.
I do believe it is the 8th year, and as everybody well knows, there's a lot to be done to get this event on place, and I'm talking everything from the stage to the portable lighting, to the carnival, the carnies, as I call them, the food trucks, the food trailers, the fencing, the porta potties.
The porta potties. Just rows and rows of porta potties on the ferry.
They'll bring over 60 or 80 porta potties on several semis, of course. And then the bands themselves that require their semi-loads, their motorhomes. It is a large undertaking for us. It has gone well in the past. It takes a lot of extra hours, a lot of extra trips. So
yeah,
after the first night of the concert, everybody sees the 3 or 4 or 5,000 people that might leave with us within an hour or two after the concert. So that first hour or two, we dedicate ourselves strictly to getting the passengers back to the mainland. Mm-hmm. And then after the second night, when the concerts actually closed down, we end up running 2 vessels pretty well nonstop all night to haul the semis and the lighting and the bands, the stages and everything back off. So there's a stretch between normally, like when we start on it that Thursday morning, which is usually the last day of the concert, until we finish up Friday night, we'll run pretty close to 42 consecutive hours, and we have run approximately 100 to 110 trips over those 40 to 42 hours. It's a large undertaking. Like I said, the crew does all the rowing and heavy lifting. We count on our crew to step up, and they sure do for us.
Wow. It's an amazing undertaking. And I imagine it takes a lot. This concert takes place at the airport, which shuts down for those 2 days, but has to be back open and ready for, accepting airplane service on Friday morning. So that's why you got to get it all out of there and off the island immediately after.
If anybody that's been to the concert, when you sort of, if you just stand and look around at all the equipment, the trucks, the people, the stage, the lightings, like I said, all the equipment's there between 11 o'clock Thursday night and to have all that stuff gone by normally 10 o'clock the next morning. It's quite the undertaking.
Wow. So you are, of course, one of the passenger options for not just for that event, I mean, all year round, but especially for that event. You do run a lot of extra trips for that. Can you talk about how people can utilize Miller Ferry to get to and from the concert?
Yeah, I mean, we add on a lot of vessels. Passengers take priority, so we sort of eyeballed the load we have out there. And you have, according to Coast Guard regulations, with so many vehicles on board, you're only like take so many people. And for every car you put on, you keep approximately 16 to 18 people off the boat. And so the captains are really good at eyeballing, saying, okay, we got approximately 280 people waiting in line at this moment. So we know we can take 10 cars or 12 cars at that time. But we will limit the vehicle traffic in order to accommodate passengers at any given time. And that's not just during the bash, but that's on our busy weekends, Saturdays. Saturdays coming to and from the island. We do prioritize the passengers as well as try to accommodate the vehicles that are there, but we will limit the number of vehicles that we put on the vessels in order to accommodate the passengers.
And it's also a good idea if you're planning to visit on a weekend. You don't need to bring your car with you if you're just going over for the day. It's not necessary. But if you are, maybe staying a couple of days, maybe you've rented a home for, for over the weekend, you can make vehicle reservations, correct?
We do not accept vehicle reservations at Put-in-Bay.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's just for Middle Bass. Okay.
Yeah, Middle Bass requires a vehicle reservation. Put-in-Bay is a first come, first serve with your vehicles. But Jill, you said it exactly right, though. If you're just coming over for the day, there's plenty of other options besides bringing a vehicle over here. But people that are spending a couple of days, a couple of nights, or got the carload full of kids in the cooler, the 3 suitcases, the tent, the fishing poles, yes, we're a great option to bring your car over. And of course, everybody well knows that, we're very busy. We get very busy coming over to the island on normally Friday afternoons when everybody's the influx. And of course, Sundays, the debarking people it's very busy. But on any given day, especially leaving the island, the busiest time to leave the island with the vehicle is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And that's every day. And that's because on any given day, even on a day like today, you might have 150 hotel rooms or lodging accommodations that are turning over. And 11 o'clock is the checkout time. So we call it the witching hour. The witching couple hours is there's usually a large influx of vehicles leaving the island at 11 o'clock almost every day. But in addition to that, a lot of the purveyor trucks that come over at 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, they're emptying out and trying to go back, usually between 11 and 12, 1 o'clock too. We plan ahead. We try to get an idea of, we have a third vessel that we put into play at any given time when we get backed up or the third vessel is necessary.
And, we already kind of alluded to the fact that you don't need to take a vehicle. When you arrive on the Miller Ferry, there are plenty of transportation options for getting around the island right there. There are golf cart rentals. There is a bus that will run folks right to downtown Put-in-Bay. And there's usually a couple of taxi companies that are sitting around there. You have an amazing information booth right when you arrive at the island, so people can get their information and maps and know where they're going. And I heard there's a new coffee shop.
Nadia's Java has a facility now at our Lime Kiln dock, and their fresh coffee is phenomenal. So I highly recommend that when you get the opportunity.
That's a great way to start your visit to the island. So you have, grown up on the island and live on the island. What are some of your favorite things about island life, Billy?
I love photography. I'm an early riser. Most people talk about the sunsets. Well, the sunrises are equally as beautiful. We live in we don't know how blessed we are. We're people that come to the island to enjoy the scenic vista that we sort of take for granted on a day-to-day basis. Where, I look around, I'll see 4 or 5 different islands. First thing I do in the morning is look at the weather forecast, especially the winds. I guess I'm getting better at it, learning to stop and smell the roses, enjoy the sunsets and sunrises, the tranquility that we have in our quiet moments. Yes, we get very busy during our summer seasons, which what we count on for our livelihoods for the whole island. But I love the wintertime also. The quietness where you can drive around for possibly 20, 30 minutes and never pass another car. When we get a normal winter like this past winter and get some ice, we take advantage of that. We love our ice fishing over here. We'll have bonfires out in the middle of the bay, ice skating parties for the kids. So we have the best of both worlds. And granted, usually by August, you're sort of looking forward to winter, maybe a little bit. But at the same time, after a month or two of winter, we're looking forward to the summer again. So, the one thing I have done is, you hear a lot of people might say, boy, I wish it was November. Well, I quit doing that a number of years ago because all I'm doing is wishing myself to be 4 or 5 months older, and I don't need to be 4 or 5 months older anymore.
Live in the present.
It's day to day. A lot of people have been talking about the weather all spring. Then I heard those same people talking about how hot it was last week.
Exactly.
So I'm not too much one of those people where I talk or complain about the weather because, like I said, whatever curveball gets thrown at us in any given day, you learn to accept it. You take the pitch or you swing at it. Either way, but you got to learn to live with it. Especially when you get into Facebook and stuff. I have always avoided politics. I post pictures of sunsets, sunrisers, and weather updates. If there's any severe weather coming in, I usually try to give people a notice that, hey, look, it's supposed to blow 40 out of the Northeast in a couple of days. Plan accordingly.
We appreciate those weather updates.
Well, it's like I said, it's sort of a neutral subject, the weather, for the most part. People can't throw darts at you because you're talking about the weather.
Well, and there's not, that's one of the very few things that, you can't control it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We've had some unique weather situations on Lake Erie, especially the last couple of winters, and you guys have been, well prepared to handle those things. Talk just a little bit about your season, because there's a very short window that you're actually not running. How do you decide when you're going to stop for the season and when you're going to start back up?
Typically, but I answered that by saying it's ice in to ice out. We're able to go through a few inches of ice, but we are not an ice breaking ferry boat situation nor our docks. Typically, it's when I say ice in to ice out. If we get through up to January 1st, I feel very fortunate. People get through the holidays, being able to travel back and forth on the ferry. And then typically, I always say middle of March, St. Patrick's Day is a pretty typical startup time. Okay. So a normal, like we haven't had too many normals here the past 10 years, but typically we're shut down for about 10 or 11 weeks.
What even is normal anymore?
That is so true. Normal being maybe not a good word, but typical.
And then as far as visitors wanting to come to the island and visit, you're running, from mid-March through the end of the year. But as far as businesses being open and there being things to do, that's typically like April to end of October, would you say? Or
depending on the spring and the weather, of course, you'll see several establishments start reopening back up here early in May, as well as overnight accommodations. And then things sort of slowly on a slow roll through April. And then once you get up into May, 98% of the businesses are open by that time, especially the weekends. It's sort of a slow roll a little bit. We have had a large number of walleye fishermen coming to the islands earlier every year.
Yep.
From Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa. These boys
all
and girls
over.
Travel hundreds of miles.
And you transport not just the fishermen, but their vehicles and their trailers and their boats.
Yes. And also typically in the spring is sort of a busy little startup. Not only do you have maybe the fishermen that are coming here, but you have businesses trying to open. People have had a chance to maybe sit back for a couple of months and say, we're going to add addition onto our business or addition onto their house or start a new house. So spring is typically a pretty busy month or two for us. So everybody's ready to come back and get going. So, everybody's had their month or two, couple of months, some of them a little longer than a couple of months to relax, and they get back up here and they're ready to go.
And one nice thing that you guys do at Miller Ferry is that you have packages available for visitors in the spring and in the fall, kind of outside of the busy time where it's still really lovely to come visit the island. And you have packages available with accommodations and with golf cart rentals and things like that to make it really easy for people to come and enjoy kind of the slower pace of the spring and the fall.
So true. I mean, once businesses started opening up over here, they want to fill the room or have somebody sit at their establishment and have a cocktail or a fish sandwich or whatever it might be. And so, we've worked well with the community as far as putting the package deals together to be able to save, to fill up those rooms, fill up the ferries, fill up the establishments, and just have people over here, whether it be visiting the gift shops or wherever. So we work well with several different places, many of them, and have little package deals, combo deals, an overnight accommodation, a ferry ride, and a golf cart type of a thing.
Yeah, it's really nice that you do that. So whether it's the slower season or peak of summer, whatever time you're looking to visit both Put-in-Bay and Middle Bass Island, where can people learn more and get more information as far as your rates and your schedule and all of that kind of information?
We have a very nice website. It's millerferry.com. That's MILLERFERRY.com. That has all the information you might need, whether it be the scheduling, price rates, special events that might be going on, our packages, island events, news updates. There'll be weather updates. We normally don't talk about the weather too much if it's going to be good.
If
we
it
only
affects
talk about
service,
the weather if it's going to be bad. So, but millerferry.com is a phenomenal little website to go to that has not just the ferry information, but a lot of what's going on the island and the events going on the island any given week or for the rest of the season. We also have an 800 number. It's 1-800-500-2421 if you'd like to talk to somebody personally in our office.
And you're on Facebook, Instagram, on all of the social media networks as well.
We're across the board. Yeah, we try to cover all the social platforms.
Well, Billy, thank you so much for chatting with us today. A very happy anniversary to the Miller Boat Line, and congrats to your family. And of course, good luck with the upcoming Bash on the Bay and all of the running that you'll be doing for that.
Thank you very much. We look forward to hopefully seeing everybody come visit us. Bring the sunshine with you, and we'll be happy to get you back and forth to the island.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Billy.
Thank you.
All right. Special thanks to today's guest, Billy Market from Miller Boat Line. Miller Ferries will take you from Catawba on the mainland to Put-in-Bay on South Bass Island or to Middle Bass Island. And they offer the lowest fares and the most frequent trips to the island. And a reminder that all of July's episodes of The Shoreline are brought to you by The Emporium. So special thanks to them for their continued support. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a minute of the action here in Shores and Islands, Ohio. You can also find more information, including past episodes of the podcast, online at shoresandislands.com. And we'll see you next time on The Shoreline.